Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. If this is your first time here with us, welcome. We are glad you're here. We have some visitors in the house this morning. If you haven't been here in a while, welcome home. If you've been here all the time, week in, week out, it's good to see you again. If you're at home watching as you do every week on Sunday, or Monday, or Tuesday, or as some of you tell me, Thursday nights, hey, glad to see you. My name is Reverend Connie Simon, and in this community, we welcome all with love, support learning and spiritual growth, serve our wider community, and work for justice, equity, and inclusion. If you'd like to know more about the things we do here at First Church, stick around. After the service, we'll have some announcements of upcoming events. And if there's something that you just want to know about, you can send an email to member-care@firstuu.com. That email will go to a variety of people within the community who can help you get the answer that you need. For now, let's begin our service by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith. We do so this morning with Thirsty by Reverend Greg Pelley. On a rainy morning, it seems ironic. He writes, "And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with joy and hope, filled with compassion and love. Here may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world."
My Heart Fills with Happiness by Monique Gray Smith, illustrated by Julie Flett. Monique Gray Smith is a mixed heritage woman of Cree, Lakota, and Scottish ancestry. Julie Flett studied fine arts at Concordia University in Montreal and Emily Carr University of Art and Design in Vancouver. Today's book is written in both English and plain Cree. However, I will only be reading it in English, so as not to butcher the Cree. If you want to hear a retelling of this story in both English and Cree, please visit Snazzy Jazzy Stories on YouTube. My heart fills with happiness when I see the face of someone I love. I smell bannock baking in the oven. I sing. My heart fills with happiness when I feel the sun dancing on my cheeks. I walk barefoot on the grass. I dance. My heart fills with happiness when I hold the hand of someone I love. I listen to stories. I drum. What fills your heart with happiness? My heart fills with happiness when I am able to be of service, and when I get a moment to reflect on all the things I am grateful for. What fills your heart with happiness?
It is our custom and our practice in this community each week to honor the joys and the sorrows that have been part of our lives since last we were together. We do that by dropping stones in water. When we closed the building, 20 months ago, back in March, I made a promise that I wasn't going to empty the stones, that we would keep the same stones in this bowl until that day when we are reopened, and then I would drain it. We're getting low on stones. We've had many joys and many sorrows since March of 2020. And in a way, that's kind of concerning. In a way, it could overwhelm us to think of all the things that have happened to us since we were in here in full, in person. But I say let's not be discouraged by them, because even though some of these stones represent sorrows, many of them represent joys. We've still had some joy in this community and in our world since the start of the pandemic, as difficult as that sometimes may be to believe. So for those who aren't familiar with our practice, the water represents the healing power of love. This is water that was blessed and brought to this church by its members. Beginning in 2018, with my arrival, we had our first water communion, and I asked folks to put a drop of water in the bowl and tell us what they brought to community. Not where they went on vacation, none of those things, but the water signifies what you bring to this community. And you brought love and joy. You brought hope and music and laughter and love and caution and danger and all of those things. And we kept the water. We boiled the water, and we used it for baby dedications and made sure there was a drop of the water in every Sunday's bowl. When 2019 rolled around, we did the same thing. We started with the water that was left, and we added more to it. In 2020, we weren't able to have our water communion. We weren't able to have one in 2021. So the water's getting low in the bottle in my office. I add to it from the tap, but there is still some of that water in there. And that water is so powerful that it doesn't matter that there may only be this much that's part of that original water. Because what you brought is powerful and enduring and everlasting. So what about the stones? Well, these stones have come from all over the place. Some were stones that came from Lifespan Faith Development. Our kids have written messages on them. This one says, "Thank you." This one says, you. A couple of them are stones that people have brought in from the outside. They saw it somewhere, they thought it looked cool, they brought it in. Some are ones that we picked up at a garden center in bulk. Every week, we put those stones in. So each one of these stones represents something that we're carrying, that we want to share with the community or lay down before the community. Because we know that the healing power of the water will soften any sorrows that we may have, just as the healing power of love and community soften our sorrows. We know that water has the power to amplify things. It amplifies our joys. The ripples when we drop a stone that represents joy, spread throughout the bowl and encourage us all, giving us hope, showing the possibility that maybe it is going to be okay when things seem to be at their lowest. So this morning, we have some stones to drop. Our first stone is for Jane K. Jane had 3 stents inserted on Wednesday after a routine stress test turned out to be not quite so routine at all. She's comforted at home now. She's home from the hospital and is surrounded by her fur babies. And we know that her daughter will be arriving tomorrow, actually, to help her get ready for Thanksgiving. And her son Josh is already here in town. So we drop a stone of healing and love and support for Jane. We drop another stone for Fran Turner, who's recovering from knee surgery. Fran told me before the surgery that she was a little nervous about it, but she knew she was going to come through it just fine. Fran would not have it any other way. So I'm happy to report that she is doing well and is on the mend. And another stone for Barbara Bonney, who had surgery this past week and is here today and says she feels good. That is wonderful. And I'm going to drop another stone, a larger stone, for all those other joys, for all of those babies that are taking their first steps. For the first time that Elliot Schaefer has been in the sanctuary with me in the pulpit. When we left in March 2020, he was still just a nugget in Rebecca's belly. And now he's walking across the back of the sanctuary right now. That is truly a joy. And we know that right now there are people all around the world who are hearing the words, "I love you," for the first time. Some may be hearing them for the last time. We know that there are folks who are welcoming new babies into their family. At the same time, others are mourning the passing of their loved ones. We know that there are people getting married right now. There are people getting new jobs. There are people moving into new homes. At the same time, there are people who are losing their homes and not sure how they're going to pay their utility bills. So this morning, we have another remembrance to make. A remembrance of a passing. And that comes from Sherry Wellington. It's been 25 years since she lost her husband, Kevin. Wounds like that, even with the passage of time, still stay in our hearts. And we miss him. And in his memory, she's given us these lovely flowers this morning. We also, when we are thinking about our joys and sorrows, we need to think about the joys and sorrows that happen outside in the larger world. And this week is a heavy week. This week, we need those flowers. We need the water. We need the stone. We need to see Elliot walking in the back. Because this week, the trial of William Roddy Bryan Jr., Gregory, and Travis McMichael is happening in Georgia for the killing of Ahmaud Arbery who was doing nothing other than running while black. We are grieving this week because Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted on all counts for the killing with an AR-15 assault rifle of 26-year-old Anthony Huber, 36-year-old Joseph Rosenbaum, and the wounding of 35-year-old Gage Grosskreutz during protests in Wisconsin. These are difficult things for us to grapple with when we want to think about what's happening here in our own world, in our own lives, but these joys and these sorrows are happening outside as well. There is one that is centuries in the making. The National Day of Mourning is next week. This began in 1970 when a Wampanoag man, Wamsutta Frank James, was asked to speak at a state dinner celebrating the 350th anniversary of the Pilgrim Landing. He refused to speak, quote, false words in praise of the white man for bringing civilization to us poor heathens. Native people from throughout the Americas came to Plymouth that day in 1970, where they mourned their forebears who had been sold into slavery, burned alive, massacred, cheated, and mistreated since 1620. There is a plaque there that says, since 1970, Native Americans have gathered at noon on Coles Hill in Plymouth to commemorate a national day of mourning on the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. Many Native Americans do not celebrate the arrival of the Pilgrims and other European settlers. To them, Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of their people, the theft of their lands, and the relentless assault on their culture. Participants in National Day of Mourning honor Native ancestors and the struggles of Native peoples to survive today. It is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest of the racism and oppression which Native Americans continue to experience. Erected by the town of Plymouth on behalf of the United American Indians of New England. As we stand here today on lands that belong to indigenous people, let us remember who was here first. Also, in 1999, transgender advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith organized a day of remembrance to honor the life of Rita Hester, a black trans woman who'd been killed in Massachusetts the year before. Since then, on every year, on this anniversary, November 20th, we come together to say the names of those who have been killed in the previous year. Last year, we had a record number, 44. 44 trans people were killed for being who they are. This year, we broke that record. This year of division and meanness, saw 46 deaths. We're going to say their names. Tiana Alexander, Samuel Edmund Damian Valentine, Bianca Buffy Muffin Banks, Dominique Jackson, 50 Bands, Alexis Braxton, China Carrillo, Jeffrey J.J. Bright and their sibling, Jasmine Kennedy, Jenna Franks, Diamond Kyrie Sanders, Rayanna Pardo, Jada Peterson, Dominique Luscious, Remy Fennell, Tiara Banks, Natalia Smut, Iris Santos, Tiffany Thomas, Carrie Washington, Jahira DeAlto, Whispering Wind Bear Spirit, Sophie Vasquez, Danica Danny Henson, Serenity Hollis, Oliver Ollie Taylor, Thomas Harden, Poe Black, E.J. Boykin, Taya Ashton, Shay Vanderpump, Tiara Marie Lewis, Miss Coco Chanel Wortham, Pooh Johnson, Desaya Monet, Brianna Hamilton, Kier Laprie Cartier, Mel Groves, Royal Poetical Stars, Zoella Zoe Rose Martinez, Joe Acker, Jesse Hart, Ricky Altamoro, Markeisha Lawrence, and Jenny DeLeon. We want to believe that these things don't happen to anyone we know. They don't happen in places where we are. Did you notice Cincinnati was on the list? These things happen here. For the last 3 years, I have been reading names on this day. And every year I keep hoping that I'm not going to have to do it next year. But we do. And I think that until we realize that all means all, when we talk about the inherent worth and justice and the worthiness of all people, until all really means all, we're going to keep reading names. We're going to keep talking about Rittenhouses. We're going to keep talking about Arbery's. So this morning, 3 stones for the victims of Kyle Rittenhouse. A stone for Ahmaud Arbery. A stone for the indigenous people. 46 stones. Each one representing a life. Someone's child. Someone's partner. Someone's loved one. Until all means all, we'll keep dropping stones. And I do that with what is a chalice lighting, but I'm going to use it as a moment for us to enter into meditation. This is written by Erica Hewitt. The chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism and arose as a beacon of hope in an atmosphere of tyranny. The chalice arose as a sign of promise that the marginalized would neither be forgotten nor ignored, because they are beloved and precious from the perspective of the holy. This morning, we remember all the people who have been told explicitly or implicitly, through police violence or government policy, through derision or dehumanization, that they're anything less than whole or anything less than beloved. We lit our chalice here this morning. May we make our lives a beacon. May we make our lives, just as that chalice, a symbol of our promise to draw the circle wide, a sign that we won't rest until all means all. Please join me now in a moment of silent meditation, reflection, or prayer. You may be thinking how hard it is to find something to be grateful for in a world that seems so troublesome. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes all of these things weigh on us. And still, we can find gratitude. We can find ways to celebrate. We can find small things to celebrate. Last year, I stood here and said, oh my gosh, George Floyd. 255,000 people had died of COVID. Then, 255,000. The presidential election had happened. We had a new president. Surely COVID was going to get better. Politics was going to change. Well, I don't have to finish that sentence, do I? And still, we have to find gratitude in this. Now, I could stand here this morning and lecture you on the theology of gratitude, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to remind us to think back to our Unitarian ancestors and the innovation that they brought to theology, which was to see that we can make heaven on earth. We don't have to wait until we're saved. We don't have to die and go to heaven. We have the power to make heaven on earth. It's a spiritual practice, gratitude. It's something that we have to nourish and cultivate. That every day, even in the midst of things that feel like they're weighing on us, we find that one thing, whether it's that perfect cup of tea, whether it's that your grandchild smiled at you in a special way, your favorite song came on the radio. Wow, how much have I dated myself? The radio. Your fur baby jumps up into your lap and just snuggles with you. We have to find those moments and hold on to them for all they're worth. We have to embrace them and then cultivate more. Maybe we start a gratitude practice of every day just writing down one thing that we were grateful for today. Today, my things that I would be grateful for, Doug. When I walked in this morning, I thought, I can't get onto the internet. That's not good when you're streaming your services. I am grateful for him, for Patricia, for all of our AV folks who help us make these services possible. I'm grateful for our staff who month after month through this pandemic have managed to bring innovation and creativity. Maybe not at the pace some of you have wanted. But remember, they're going through COVID and all the political stuff too. And Jera figured out how to do some virtual church recordings for music. And Meredith launched a TikTok channel and Google groups and cartoons. And Carrie figured out ways for us to maintain our operations virtually. Our staff is amazing. Kenny hasn't even been here a year and has already proven to be indispensable in helping us keep this place together. So I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for all of the people who volunteer on all the teams and all the committees in the church. When Jera said, I really need a Sunday off, have a family obligation, Noriko said, I got it. You stepped in where there was a need. For the folks who come in on Sundays and say, I'll man the door. I'll help you with that. I'll make sure that flowers get delivered to someone. I'll make sure so-and-so gets a meal. Those are things for which we need to be grateful. Even if the big things aren't happening, let's take the little things. Because in reality, those are the big things. So, another thing that I think I am most grateful for is just the love of family, of my birth family, my blood family, my chosen family, and this family, my first church family. Yeah, I know there are some of you who aren't quite pleased all the time, but that's okay, because we love one another. And for that, I am grateful. So I will leave you with Gratitude by Swiftwalker. Let's start with the people we love and those who love us. Thankful they are in our lives, obliging us to open our hearts. Let open hearts embrace the earth, the sea, and the soil, and the stars, blessed by bold beauty, the bounty of being. Then, with hearts open to beauty, let us embrace the arts and the generation of learning that we should have wisdom. Let what wisdom we have, one and wanting, lead us to strive so the seventh generation hence can live more fully. It's in that work and that work alone that we can express our thankful spirit. May we make it so. For the opening to make it so, let us be truly grateful.
Good morning. My name is Karen Rohr, and I'm here to talk to you about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Every month, the Social Justice Committee chooses one organization to give our special plate to, and for this month, it's UUSC. When I first started coming to the First Church, I knew nothing about the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. I sometimes wonder how much most of our congregation is aware of what the UUSC has done over the years. So like any good Unitarian, I did some research. The UUSC has been advancing the cause of human rights for more than 80 years. In 1939, Martha Sharp and her husband, Reverend Wetzel Sharp, went to Czechoslovakia to help refugees escape Nazi persecution. In 1940, after barely escaping arrest, they returned to the United States. That was when the American Unitarian Association decided to form the Unitarian Service Committee. When we united with the Universalists, it became the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Under the auspices of the USC, Martha Sharp and Reverend Wetzel Sharp returned to Europe in 1940 and helped thousands of people escape the Nazis. In 1945, the Unitarian Service Committee supported relief efforts throughout Europe. But that was just the beginning. I want to read you some of the few extraordinary things that the UUSC has done over the years. Now, I've got about 50 of them here. And it was hard to choose, maybe my top 10, but that's what I did. In 1947, the Texas Migrant Workers Project was founded to provide childcare, education, and nutrition to exploited communities. In 1960, desegregation projects were launched in Florida and Georgia as Unitarian Universalists take a prominent role in the civil rights movements of the 1960s. I skipped one. In 1958, a health and community project is established in Nigeria. In 1980, the UUSC organizes the first Central American, I can't pronounce it in Spanish, I'm sorry, encounter for rural communities, development workers and organizers from Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador to exchange information on economic, political, and social issues, and to form a regional support network. In 1986, UUSC begins sponsoring health clinics in Nigeria. In 1989, UUSC launches Promise the Children, a new program in addressing the needs of children in the United States. Here we go. In 1994, UUSC sends medical equipment to Rwanda and begins a long-term relationship with grassroots groups working to bring peace to the region. In 2006, UUSC's work for a living wage helps to win ballot victories in 6 states and leads to the first increase in the federal minimum wage in 10 years. In 2007, UUSC begins a 6-year-long project in Guatemala to hold the Goldcorp mining company accountable for human rights violations, including water and contamination and skin diseases caused by toxic chemicals. In 2012, they finally pressure the Goldcorp until it commits $27 million to reclamation at a gold mine that contaminated the water supply of indigenous peoples. In 2013, UUSC launches a project to improve workers' wages and working conditions of restaurant workers here in the United States. This is an incredibly important organization that lives our UU values. They make me proud to be a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association. I hope that you will be generous and give to this special plate. Thank you.
To contribute to Guest at Your Table, which is the program of the UU Service Committee, you may do so by texting the word GIVE to 513-717-7373. You can also click Give Now if you have access to our Breeze member system. You can give online at firstuu.com, or you can mail a check made payable to First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati with Guest at Your Table written in the memo line to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45219. If you're interested in having one of the Guest at Your Table collection boxes that you can have at home, please send an email to member-care@firstuu.com and we'll make sure you get one. Our offering will now be gratefully received. You can clap for them. This is a clapping church. You can clap. You can shout. You can give them an amen. You can give them whatever you need, whatever you feel. So I have some news that I wanted to leave a few minutes at the end of the service to share, and that is some reopening news. We have been doing a survey here. We do a survey every 3 months, talking about our reopening. And I want to share with you some of the results of the survey. So I'll begin by telling you that on December 1st, we will be welcoming everyone home into the sanctuary. There will not be, So no RSVP will be required. Attendance limitations will be lifted. We are strongly recommending that you be vaccinated before you come. We cannot require you to be vaccinated, and we're not going to ask you to show proof. But because we care about one another, we expect that you will be vaccinated. Masks are recommended, especially if you are not speaking or singing. We won't be dropping the stones in the water for joys and sorrows. For those who aren't aware, usually individuals drop the stones, not me. So I will continue to drop the stones. There will continue to be a preference for online giving. For the offering, we are working on a locked box at the back so that if you want to give, you can drop it into the box, but we will not have an offering plate. Coffee hour will happen in the Ellen Hall room after service. There will be coffee and tea only unless we can figure out a way to do individually wrapped foods. And we ask that you be mindful of personal space. So before we go to the video, I want to just share a couple things. We sent out 254 surveys, and 64% of them were opened. We got 96 responses. 61 of you are over the age of 65. 24 considered yourselves to be in COVID vulnerable populations. 13 of those who responded have children in family faith programming. We wondered, are you all vaccinated? All 96, yes. But is everyone in your home vaccinated? No. 14 people have folks at home who are not vaccinated for any number of reasons. It's not for us to question why, but that should make us more mindful as we come together to remember that we don't want to share anything that someone could take home. 68 of the 96 folks have already gotten their boosters. 25 haven't yet but intend to, and 3 do not plan to get one and have not gotten one. We asked whether you would be interested in attending an outdoor solstice service on December 21st. 43 said yes, 39 don't know, 14 said Christmas Eve in the sanctuary, which tends to be the most crowded day in this church, 40 people said, I don't know yet, maybe. And some of them shared that it was because of family plans, but there were several who expressed concerns about safety. 34 said yes, 22 said no. So what I want to gather, what I want to share with you from all of this is that we have folks at all ranges on the spectrum of COVID feeling right now. So when we come together, it's important to recognize that not everyone will be ready to give you a hug. It doesn't mean they don't love you, but they just may not be ready to do that yet. So we're going to have name tags. You'll have your regular name tags outside, but we're going to have some pin-on tags that will have red on one side, green on the other side, or something else. We have to figure that out. But it'll be, yes, I'm open for hugs. No, I'm not. Or ask me first. Consent is key in this situation. I also want to make sure that everyone understands that this is still very much a fluid situation. The number of cases in New England is rising. Austria and some other European countries have shut back down again. They're back in lockdown. So we are going to do our best to make this as welcoming as possible. There will be 2 classrooms open downstairs, the infant and toddler room and the pre-K first grade young littles room will be open as well. The other classrooms downstairs will not be open yet. Full lifespan faith development programming will resume after the start of the year. For the month of December, they'll be doing one-room schoolhouse type things, or one-room chapel. The theme for the month is Welcome Home. We will be celebrating being together. And I know that we will all be happy to be together, but please be careful and be mindful. And I'm going to ask if we can advance to Meredith's slide, because Meredith has a way of telling things.
Beloveds, as we emerge from this pandemic and begin lifting restrictions around our church, we need to have a quick chat about coffee, consent, and COVID-19. To begin, let's talk about coffee. Imagine, if you will, offering to get a cup of coffee for a friend. If they say, "Yes, thank you," then you know they want a cup of coffee. But if you offer to get your friend a cup of coffee and they say, "I don't know," then you can grab them a cup of coffee and offer it to them. But, and this is very important, you cannot make them drink the cup of coffee. Force feeding your friend a cup of coffee will do nothing but create a big old mess. And if your friend says, "No, I don't want a cup of coffee," then don't get them a cup of coffee. And don't question their answer or get mad at them. Just don't get them a cup of coffee. Now, you may find that your friend wanted coffee last Sunday, but doesn't want coffee this Sunday. If that happens, don't argue with them or try to force feed them coffee. Again, that will do nothing but create a big mess. If you can understand this, then you can understand how consent should be applied to all areas of church life moving forward. When you want to sit next to someone, when you want to high five, shake hands, or hug someone, when you want to lower your mask, always ask first, listen to your friend's answer, and respect their answer. Ask, listen, respect every time. And if you ever find yourself in a position where you feel pressured to do something you are not ready for, remember that no is a complete sentence all by itself. Because when it comes to your body, only you get to decide what happens to it. If we all can remember these simple rules, then we will be 1 inch closer to the beloved community we all dream about. This video is an adaptation of Tea and Consent by Emmeline May in Blue Seat Studios. Copyright 2015.
So you'll be getting a copy of all of the survey results. They'll be in your email this afternoon. And now, let's end our worship by extinguishing our chalice, by reciting together the words that appear on your screen. Together we say, "We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again." This week, may you all find whatever you need. May you celebrate however you choose. I hope that it is wonderful and all that you expected and all that you dreamed of. Now let's transition into our world of service as I share some announcements with you. The first one is a thank you for the folks who make worship happen. For the staff, Rihanna Andrews, who is our new office assistant. She's a work-study student from the University of Cincinnati. Jera, Connie, who's here right now. Meredith, Carrie, Kim Whitehead, Stephen Willis, and Amber Woods, our classroom leaders. Our AV techs, Doug and Patricia Rohr, who are on duty today, Sally Behringer, Chris Dendy and Rosie Park, Tim Kraus, Ray Sinclair, and Dave Wallace. For our worship team, which in addition to Meredith and Jera and me can include Sally Behringer, Barbara Bonney, Jane Hobson, and Karen Rohr. And thanks to each one of you for all you do and for being here. Next week, our service will feature videos and information from Guest at Your Table. This will be a fully recorded service. Now, I want to do just a quick hands up poll for those of you who are sitting here. Are any of you interested in coming to watch it together? Coming in person to watch it together? Okay. We are trying to figure out what makes the most sense. It may just be recorded, or the sanctuary may be open for you to come watch. There will not be coffee or anything yet. That starts the following week. But please enjoy that service because it's really, really good. You'll get to hear from 4 amazing folks who are doing great work. Our Sunday childcare for ages 3 and up has one more Sunday, which kind of doesn't matter if we're not here next week. But if we are here next week, there will be childcare for ages 3 and up, likely outside, as if the weather permits, otherwise downstairs. Lastly, if you are interested in membership or learning more about First Church, please send a message to member-care@firstuu.com. For those of you who are here today, I hope you will make a special effort to join us for our service on December 19th as we welcome 4 new members into the First Unitarian Church community. Thank you all, and go in peace.